everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti, and if you don't know, I'm the face, the voice, and the hands behind all the content here under Infiniti Crafting Co. and the website InfinityCraftingCompany.com. Today I am here with Channel Chat 111. Hurrah, I have remembered the number of my podcast. So first and foremost, there are about 1,500 new faces here on the channel. Welcome, thank you for being a member of my community and tuning into these awkward video, vlog, podcast things that I never quite know how to name. Today, I might sound slightly more invigorated, and that is because I am on a glorious spring break. Oh my gosh. So, for those of you who don't know, I am in college. So, you know, every year we have this fun thing called spring break. But for the past 2 or so, well, I guess really 3 years, I have not really had spring break because I take online classes, and you know, I guess they feel like people who take online classes don't deserve a freaking break. However, this year I don't have any virtual classes, so that means everybody's tired and I get my spring break. So I couldn't have been more excited to jump into this week-long no-go, you know, just chill out session, okay? And so I've been able to sit back, been able to work on my paintings for my degree. I've been able to work on a couple of projects. As you guys can see, I have finished a shawl, and you might be able to see the sweater over here that I have recently come up with a name with. And I'll let you guys know what the name of this sweater is at the end of the video, and also probably bring it more so into the frame so you can see it. But today's channel chat is not a typical channel chat. So I was thinking, right, as I was heading off into my blissful weekend, I was thinking that, you know, there are very few members of my audience that actually have been around since the very beginning. So I guess I'll go over a little backstory. My background is art education. I went to community college, took 3 years worth of credits for an art ed degree, and enjoyed every moment of it. I was fortunate enough where the program I was in was very studio intensive, and so I got a lot of the creative experience out of it, which is exactly what I wanted. And when I started this channel, you know, I went through an art era and a craft era, so I felt like I wanted to do both things on this one channel, and I burned out very quickly. Like within a year, I stopped doing both on this channel and solely started focusing on the fiber arts that you guys have come to know and love today. You know, there was just a sense of guilt, I guess, between the time I stopped doing the art on this channel and now. Because I was like, well, you know, I've always been the creative type. I've always wanted to incorporate art into whatever business I decided to create, and I was just feeling it because I'm like, I'm still in school. I'm still taking classes. Mind you, now I'm more so business admin than education, but nonetheless, I wanted to find a way where I can really incorporate my skill set back into my business that I am trying to build. So fast forward here, I have settled in on the wonderful world of ceramics, and for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've really been able to take advantage of some studio time. Speaking of which, that's why I'm doing this video today, because this past Thursday, I was in my last ceramic studio class before spring break, and I had a bunch of bowls and such that I needed to trim because I decided to play with an idea and I'm really excited about said idea, so I'm going to be dragging you guys into the studio today. So all that backstory leads me to now. A lot of you may or may not know, don't know, might know about my recent venture into making crochet hook jars. Some of them hold knitting needles, some of them don't. Some of them are specifically for the height of a crochet hook, but I have been venturing more so into different heights for knitting needles and stuff. I have a huge collection of knitting needles. I know I'm digressing. Don't know if I really want to go and make something for my huge collection, but for normal knitters that have a select number of knitting needles, I am thinking of trying to make vases or whatever you want to call those vases for the storage of those in particular. So I'm kind of working on that right now. But a few weeks ago, I was asked about yarn bowls. I've never used yarn bowls in my own studio, just because my projects are typically quite large. I design garments and scarves and shawls and things like that, those kinds of accessories. So I really haven't found a use for a yarn bowl in my own spare time, but I know a lot of people like them, and I was asked on one of my short form videos about it. And so I decided to trek into the studio and play with said idea, and I made a couple out of porcelain. This semester I got to start finally working in porcelain, and I am thrilled with it. It's a lot easier to throw with than I thought it would be. I don't know, I guess I've always held it kind of on a pedestal. In a way, it kind of is, because you have to fire it to such high temperatures to get all the impurities out of it, and it's really fascinating clay body to work with. But anyway, I digress. I played with the ideas. I just kind of wanted to drag you guys along today and show you some of the stuff that I do as I piddle around, as I call it, in the studio. Hopefully you'll enjoy spending time with me in the studio. I will probably talk your ear off, so grab your favorite project, grab your tea, grab your coffee, come hang out with me, and I'm gonna pack up all of my crap and we're gonna go over to the ceramic studio. Alright, so I'm here in the studio, and like I said, I have several pieces that I need to trim, but first and foremost I checked on my teapot that I am constructing out of leaf molds, and it's still a really good consistency. So what I want to do before I start trimming all this stuff is to actually throw the flange and whatnot. So I'm going to wedge up a little tiny piece of porcelain, and we're going to throw it and try to get that flange as thin and precise as possible. So bear with me here. Alright, this is where things are going to get messy. But I don't need a whole heck of a lot of porcelain to do this. A lot of this excess will be cut off, or I'll turn it into some kind of tray. I think more than likely I'll be throwing off of a hump. It's about a pound of clay here. So I'm just going to go ahead and wedge it up. Now, usually larger pieces of clay will take a lot more wedging than this, as you guys have seen in some of my shorts. But this right here doesn't need much. I have a little wire cutter over here, which has been well used apparently. Just cut it in half and see that there's no air bubbles in it. So it's good to go. Just want to wedge it back together a couple of times. And what I like to do with the table is just round it up a little bit at the bottom and kind of pat it into a cone shape, because it just makes it easier to throw with, especially with bigger pieces. But small pieces like this also can be kind of fun when it's centering it. Right? I hope I pushed play. Did I push play? I don't even know. I did. Okay. We're good. We're great. Alright, y'all. So we're just gonna... This is the one thing I'm probably gonna throw today. It's kind of liberating to have this space all to myself, because nobody comes to school on spring break. So, it's one of those perks of just being dedicated, right? So what I'm going to do right now is called centering. So you want the clay to be like at the very center of this bag, because otherwise whatever you pull off of here is going to be a wobbly mess, or it'll end up flying off of the machine at some unfortunate point and splattering somewhere. And I don't want to clean that, so we're going to center this. It's pretty precise, like right there. Usually I'll throw it down. I'm going to get this moving. And you can see that it's off center, so you still have a lot to work with getting it centered. But I mostly use the palms of my hands to get everything in the right spot. water is key to everything. Alright, so now that I have this center, what I want to do is get this open, but I want to make sure that I'm paying good attention to my calipers. So these things I have used to measure the lid that I threw about a week ago. And so now I want to make a flange where the lid will nestle down into it. So, you know, here we go. Just gonna open that down straight to the center. Pull it out a little bit. Okay. And I also want to keep in mind like a good shape for this, because again the teapot is kind of decorated in those leaf molds, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with this. But I want to get this thing as thin as possible without it shattering on me as it dries, because I'm going to have to get this thing to set up under a fan for a little bit. Water. Right? Nice and smooth. So what I want to do is actually kind of push in down here at the base of it. It's a very delicate little piece here, so I don't want to go in too hard with any tools right off the bat. Okay. I'm going to take my calipers here and make sure this is perfect. Look at me. Okay. So what I want to do is just kind of squeeze in the center here. I think it'll make a nice little shape for this. And then I want to clean this up a little bit with the sponge. Just kind of compressing that edge. Something more like that. Okay. Now what I want to do, I think I want to take my metal rib and just kind of gently shape this on the outside. Maybe a little bit here on the rim. It's like barely a whisper touching it. Right? Now here comes the fun part about like throwing off of a hump, right? So I will be basically just jutting this needle underneath here very flat, and I'm going to be picking it up over here, which, you know, I should have honestly had a piece of wood over here, but it doesn't matter. I'll get a piece. Just bear with me here. I like to slow the wheel way down for this process because I almost lost it. So there's that. He's good. I'm gonna, with this needle tool, just kind of, you know, lift him up. And I'm gonna go put him under the fan for a little while. that is literally the only piece that I had that I wanted to throw today. But when I throw off of a hump, I always have this little lump of clay, and I never like to waste clay, and especially the porcelain. Like I said, I'm going to be made to make some of this stuff since I've been using it so much. But I always like to make one final little piece. And this is literally probably the smallest piece I've ever made. Taking the time, make sure that's good and centered. Because maybe this will turn into something to hold stitch markers. Slow it down there a little bit. Will it survive is the question. A little bit more water. Welcome to my little corner studio space. I was sequestered here after a couple of falls ago, right? So a couple years ago I took Ceramics 1, and again, I fell in love with the medium just like all over again. So, you know, I made a lot of stuff that first go around, including those yarn bowls. It's kind of hard to believe that they're 2 years old now, but nonetheless, I digress. The second go around, like fall of what? I guess fall of last year, I got put in my own little corner over here because I made so much stuff the last time. I ended up overrunning my shelf and needed more shelf space, and so I guess he just saw fit to give me my own little corner with my own little wooden shelves. They're kind of bare right now because I also have a metal rack right here that's holding my porcelain stuff. None of my things have been really fired this semester. Maybe 2 things. I think these might be the 2 things that got fired, and this is just like the standard clay. And these will get glazed at some point, but that's really all that's been fired this semester. We haven't really done a lot of firing. We've been doing a lot of experimentation with clay bodies and things like that, so I haven't really gotten around to that. And like I was saying in the other part of the video, when you fire porcelain, you have to fire it higher, at a higher temperature and whatnot. So when I looked at the kilns that we have here, we would definitely be gas firing the bisque fire, the first firing for those. So they stay in their own little realm so that I know what each thing is made out of, because some of these clays, when they dry similarly. So this is something like I've made with like the regular clay, and it dries brown, but the porcelain, it dries white, and that's really what I wanted to come over here and show you guys, right, before I go into nerdland. So like I said, fell in love with the porcelain. So I have several pieces that I have made out of the material. Let's see if I can get it off the shelf here. So many things. Alright, so the things that are most pertinent to this video, right, would be the things that I've made for Infiniti Craft & Co. So things like the crochet hook jars. These are some of the more plain ones, which I think will be nice considering the type of glazes I'm considering putting on them. which is a mystery for you guys, but you'll get updates in the future. I made a few cups, so 1, 2, I have 3, which is definitely for crochet hooks, and I have a 4th one here. So what I'm trying to do is actually, and what I'm starting to succeed in doing, is making them taller for knitting needles, because like I said, I have a army of them. So if I can manage to make something that is wide enough and tall enough to house all of my knitting needles, I think that would be really cool in the future to just put back on my shelf. And then I have something handmade, something else handmade in the studio to go in my background. But anyway, so I have like 4 of these that are bone dry so far and that I've sanded and trimmed, and I have a bowl that I think I will glaze and such for stitch markers. It's a very lightweight thing, which is the beauty of porcelain. You want it to be nice and light, which is why I was so happy with that little bowl that I just threw, because it's so thin. Alright, so if you're a member of my newsletter, you guys already know about these, okay? But if you're just in my video community, so on Rumble or YouTube, it's the first time you're seeing these, right? So I guess about a month or so ago now, like I said, I was asked about yarn bowls, and I was like, I never, thought about making them. But this guy went out on me again. But anywho, so I was asked about these, and to be honest, I just, like I said, never found a use for them in my own studio, but I know a lot of people do like these and do buy them. So I did a little research, kind of looked around at some basic designs, and this was kind of the first one that came out of that. Took a lot of carving to get things smoothed out enough to where I would want to run yarn through it. That final glazing process will also help smooth out these edges even more, so that yarn will glide through it. But this was my first one. It has the little standard swirl in it and the 3 holes, which I made all of mine different sizes for like gauge. I'd like if you have a different gauge of yarn and you just want to thread it to the bowl, I guess, or to hold your knitting needles. I've seen that also. So this one exists. I also made another one that was a smidge bigger. So here's this one, side by side. I think this would be good for the thumbnail of this video. But again, that typical swirl and the 3 holes, 3 different size holes on this one. I got most of my inspiration from the ones that I see in the craft store. I actually took a special trip to Michael's to look at it, like observe it, and like I said earlier in the video, or at some point in this video, there was nothing really different from like the weight thing, because my concern was, oh, do I need to make the bottom of these heavier than I would normally throw them? And the answer for that was no, to my delight, because last thing I want is to be yelled at for leaving my stuff too thick. Not really yelled at, but so I have gone about making, I think, 5 of these in total out of the porcelain. Like I said, right now the supply on the porcelain is a little low until we make more, so maybe I'll make more of them, maybe I won't. I really just kind of want to see where this goes, especially at the end of the semester when we do the sale and exhibition, and then whatever it may do in my own shop. I plan on taking some of these things home and leaving some of these things here this go around. So I'm excited about that. And then the last thing over here that I just think is cute, it's totally unrelated, but I made a teapot. This is my first teapot. The second one is off to the side here. I just threw the little flange thingy for that, and I'm letting it set up under the fan so that I can actually build with it and cut into it and adhere it to the top of the thing. And then I'm going to finish carving out my spout and applying it on here, which I won't take you guys through that process. Maybe I'll record it for my art channel. I don't know. But this is my first one, and it just reminds me of the little teapot from Beauty and the Beast. So it's charming. It is functional, to my delight. Because I really try my best to make things that are functional, as opposed to like just formative, decorative. There's the word. So yeah, I don't want to really hold this by the handle at this point because it's only bone dry. It hasn't been fired, so could still very well fall apart and I'd be sad. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything back to where it belongs, and then I'm going to head on over to the wheel again because I need to trim 8 pieces today. So let's get started. And there's my trim tool that I'm used to. Okay. Ow. Why? Alright, if you've made it this far in the video, I would love it so much if you would subscribe and hit that notification bell. 9 times out of 10, if you're seeing this video, you've probably watched quite a few of my videos before. Might as well subscribe. You're going to keep coming back. You know you love me. That was very bold. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is I might end up going with a lot of blues and greens as far as my glazing methods this go around. I've been falling in love more so with those 2 colors in particular. I was also asked what my favorite color was for glazes. I don't have one. My professor also made a black glaze that I put on one of my other crochet hook jars. I think her name is Celeste. Yeah, but it's a very nice semi-matte. It's not really glossy, but so I call it semi-matte. But it's a very nice solid black, and I think experimenting with dripping in addition to coloration is going to be really fun this go around. So either between that, and I think that Rutile would look really, really gorgeous on the white clay body that is porcelain. So the only example I would have of that would be this coloration right across the front of Ruelle. So the clay body would be like a pure white, and then this purplish bluish wash would just drip down the sides of it. So I'm going to experiment with that. It's a tricky thing, but I think it can be accomplished with my skill level, I think. Glazing can be really fun. It can also be very kind of a crapshoot because, you know, glaze does kind of what it wants to do. So I'm just going to enjoy the process with. So none of the things that you're going to see in this video will actually be available until probably late May, because that'll give me time to not only go through everything, make sure everything's hunky-dory, but also have time to make product listings and stuff on the website. So there's a lot of busy little technical things that go on behind the scenes when I do make things up. But nonetheless, they will be available by the summer. Just kind of working on making things up because I'm also being pressured into doing the pottery sale at school. So that's bound to be fun. I think it will be fun, but yeah, just kind of prepping for that kind of thing. But you guys can let me know in the comments below, what colors would you be interested in seeing on these pieces. Now, not all of my pieces will be porcelain. I plan to go back to a more basic clay body that requires less fire power, so to speak, less heat. Just a practicality thing, basically. But I do plan on going back to that one and then experimenting with some stoneware. So I think that should be pretty interesting. Anywho, back to the studio. Alright, I think I have everything, so I'm going to get cracking on this thing. This is probably one of the most complicated videos I will have ever done for my channel. Alright, so now I'm ready to do my trimming. I have a little griffin grip here. Thankfully the studio has these because I hate centering with clay when it comes to trimming. The only thing with this is that you have to make sure that it's flat. My hand's not moving here, so I'm good to go. Sometimes these things can be a little fickle when you turn the petals around. I'm going to have to turn these around today because all of my pieces are tall. So these little rubber pieces won't be enough to keep them in place. So to give you guys a little backstory, I guess, I threw this round of things Thursday and Tuesday. So they've had a few days to dry. Of course, I've been checking them, can kind of control the moisture in the pieces a little bit so they don't dry out too fast. There's one piece in particular that I threw Tuesday that I'm a little concerned about, but either way, I'm going to trim it down really good. But now, today, thankfully, this thing wants to cooperate, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to reach back here and grab one of my pieces, and Just gonna sit it down like this. It's still pretty moist, which personally I like a little extra moisture in my pieces when I trim them, because that gives me the opportunity to come back with the sponge and really smooth things out, and that just kind of comes with the territory of trimming, you know. So just want to make sure this is on center. And since it is a cylinder, this is one of my crochet hook jars, or maybe even knitting needle cup. I'll have to see about that after everything. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Darn. Anyway, we're gonna get into trimming this bad boy. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so because it is a cylinder, I don't necessarily have to put a foot on it, but that's just something that I like to do. I don't think I'll be doing it today though. You know. First, I think I'm going to just put a little circle here, just because I want a nice, incline shape, decline shape when you put it on the right side. And I'm just going to go in with my small tool here and start trimming into it. Great. Run these edges with this flatter tool. And I will stop it periodically just to make sure that everything looks good, because everything always looks good when it's spinning, but when it's not spinning is when it's more important. So I'm just gonna get all that grime. There's probably a different clay body in the bag that I wrapped my porcelain in the other day. I guess I should make this evident, but I am here on a Saturday, so, you know, these timelines might be a little weird sounding when I do actually go to post this video. So I threw this stuff between, February 28th and March the 1st. No, March the 2nd. There we go. Alright, and then I'm here on March the 4th to trim everything. Okay, I'm just gently going back down here on the sides. I do like making little indentations in my work, so I recently got my hands on some ribs for the outsides of my pieces, and they won't be until Sunday or Monday or something like that, so I don't have them with me today, but it's not like I'm throwing today, so it's not really that pressing. But maybe in a future video, if I get the chance to bring in my camera and stuff, I will do a video for that. It also feels like a really good opportunity to bring back my art channel. Alright. Now, this is all good and fine. I don't want to trim into this too much. It's still quite moist on the inside, which is typical of porcelain. But anyway, I'm going to just run my sponge over this and get rid of any of the little nubby pieces, and also just smooth things out. So whether I'm throwing or trimming, I like to keep a little water on hand. Just really clean that up. And this also helps with the sanding, because eventually I go in with some rough grit sandpaper and just kind of sand down the sides, and then take a little scouring pad and dust it off and whatnot before it goes into the first firing. So it's a very lengthy process making these things. It's not like I just woke up one day and decided to, hey, I'm going to do pottery. I was not good at this when I first started. Alright, and right now I don't have a stamp, but I'm looking at stamps, so maybe by the end of the year I can get a stamp for my pottery and be able to put my unique signature at the bottom. But in the meanwhile, I just carve it at the bottom and I put the year down there somewhere. Oh. And I really want to make sure I make my marks deep enough, because it is totally possible to sand off my signature at this stage when it does get bone dry. And so by the time break is over, everything should be bone dry and I'll be able to move on to the refining process of everything. Can I make my W fancy again? Yes. Alright. And it is the year of our Lord, 2023. Alright, there's piece one, successfully trimmed. I didn't bust through it. So a lot of the time I don't like to announce pieces until after I've gone through the trimming process, because you know, I have been known to go through the bottom of pieces like a lot of people tend to do. And you know, I'd hate to be like, oh, I have a certain amount of inventory, and then inventory shatters on the wheel. So, you know, and this time I got a good thickness here at the bottom. Probably a little thicker than I would normally leave it, but it makes a good counterbalance, so it's nothing to worry about there. Alright, now I'm going to move on to the next piece. Alright, I think I want to put a foot on this one. I couldn't resist, I'm sorry. Alright, so this is a larger yarn bowl that I managed to throw the other day, and as you can see, I kind of started branching out. This is not the final form of that swirl, but I started branching out with different shapes and ideas because I thought that maybe some of them should be a little different. So this one will still have the different size holes on it. I've marked out where I want those to go. None of that is in the danger zone of my trimming that I need to do here at the bottom, but I did just kind of want to tap on it a little bit. You can hear that it makes a nice little hollow sound, which lets you know it's at a good thickness. So probably a little thicker than my professor would want me to throw it, but honestly for the project I feel like it's a good depth. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on. And I can tell by the projects in this particular thing I had wrapped up, this is the second batch of things. So these were like in no danger of drying out on me, but you know, I meant to do the other ones first, but it's okay. It's all good. I'm just gonna make sure this bad boy is centered. And one of these I made with a dip in it for it to better cradle the little swoop that goes through there. And this one might be it. Alright, now it's nice and snug so I can get to trimming. And this one I definitely think I'm going to put a foot on it just because of the shape. So really just go in on the foot part of this, and then as I travel down the bowl, my pressure gets lighter and lighter because I don't want to put an extreme amount of planar difference in there. Like, some of my pieces have a ridge on them, and I love that because it's going to make the glaze travel down it really nicely, but some of these pieces I don't want that on there. The bowls would definitely be one of them, though it may eventually add some decorative appeal to it. I just right now don't want it. I don't know why I went from the outside to the inside that time. Maybe I'll put a double foot on this one. We'll see. I have done one double foot on a piece before, and I never showed it off. Which I should, but now it functions as a candy dish, so you know. I hope you all are enjoying me nerd out in the Play Studio today. Getting to see some of my craft process. That's not typical for the channel. You know, as I've said in other posts, or blog posts mostly, I don't know, I feel this new wave of inspiration this year, and I think part of that is just because I'm finding ways to be able to reincorporate my artwork back into my business. And I think that's a thing too, when you go for certain degrees or whatever, you're always wondering how exactly you're going to use your newly acquired skills for the rest of your life, right? And that's basically stereotypical for artists. You know, we get into this thing because we're crafty and creative, and then, you know, we get to spend a lot of time wondering how we're going to pay our bills later, which can definitely be a fear, you know. I have had that existential crisis more than once, but with this, I feel like it's something simple because it's not as draining. I love painting, but as far as painting for a career, I don't know if I'd want to do that, because it feels like it would just drain me entirely, and I don't want to burn out as soon as I begin with something. And with this, I feel like I can walk into a space, whether it is my limited space in my basement or whether it's in an actual studio, and I feel like I can just put my earbuds in and totally just be at peace and do this for hours. And you know, it's a great feeling. So I am more than, and it's also, you know, easier to kind of mold to the whole fiber arts business, you know. So it's not, okay, I have no idea how long I was talking before my camera went out. But if you're still watching at this point, I would hope that you would hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. so that you don't miss out on future content. This usually isn't the type of content I would put here on this channel, but I thought it would be worthwhile to show you guys some of the behind the scenes process on how things are made that I put up in my shop. As you guys may or may not know, I recently shut down my Etsy shop, and I decided to put all or most of my focus into my website's shop because, you know, I built it. It's my baby. I spent like 5 years before I actually launched it, building it and designing it, and so I feel like it needs the attention that 5 years of work deserves. So I'm doing that, and I'm just appreciative right now at this point because, you know, as an artist, you kind of spend time wondering how the heck you're going to make your artwork work for you, you know, and how you're going to make a career out of it. And some people do, some people don't. It's always been my ambition to use my creativity to create a life that's worthwhile for myself. And so I feel like now at this point where I'm able to sit back and create these things, whether it's in my basement or in an actual legit studio, I'm just happy to do it, and I'm glad that I've been able to find kind of a niche, you know. The great thing about being in the studio right now is that I'm the only one that's doing fiber art stuff, and so when I forget to put my name on it, like I nearly just did, they know exactly who it belongs to. I'm going to put it right here. Wait. I should put it on the actual foot like I've done in the past, because that won't get any glaze on it. So, yeah, I hope you'll subscribe. This year, I hope, will be a big year for Infiniti Crafting Co. At the end of last year, we hit the 10K milestone, which I am very happy about. But this year, I would like to grow all the more, and it'd be great if I could hit maybe 30K by the end of the year. I think that should be the goal. So, if you haven't subscribed yet and you've been watching my videos, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell if you're on YouTube or if you're on Rumble. You've been watching me for a while, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I know my Rumble channel right now just kind of mirrors my YouTube channel for the most part. I haven't really done anything exclusive over there in a while, but that's because I realized I was getting in over my head for a little bit, and doing all the social media management and whatnots by myself got a little daunting. So I was just like, you know what, let's make this work for me. But maybe in the future I'll do some exclusive stuff over there. Alright, and I think this one's number 5, right? I want to look before I put that number on there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was busy, apparently. I think, let me see. We're going to call this one number 5. A couple of those pieces in that bag look like they could be yarn bowls, but I think they were supposed to be hook jars or needle holders. So we're going to see about that in a moment. There we go, number 5. Number 5 can go over here on the board. This one seemed a little wet. Let me see. This one is a little wet. I'm going to put this guy under the fan. It's a really nice shape, and it's a very nice, thin, delicate thing. But it feels like I just took it off the wheel. And it's been a couple of days. I never use these short ones. I've never made anything this small that I've had to trim before, but you know, there's a first time for everything. Also, I want to make mention, if you are a member of my newsletter, yet again, I know this video has been pretty long, so if you are a member of my newsletter, I put out an email for March already, and if you're a crocheter specifically, you know this is National Crochet Month, so you're not going to want to miss out on that one. I will send it out again probably next Wednesday on the 15th. So if you want to be clued in on my exclusive deals and stuff for the crochet patterns in the shop, then sign up for that newsletter, because it'll be going out, I think, probably the 15th and then maybe on the 31st. I don't like to overwhelm people's inboxes and whatnot, so yeah. And you can find the link to my website down in my bio. You just have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page and submit your info for the email list. Alright, so what I want to do is kind of hollow this bad boy out, because it is definitely thinner towards the top, which is what I want. But I need it to be a little thinner for this bottom portion here, and it's still a little moist, but that's fine for my purposes today. Clearly it's not all the way done. I love how that looks like it's just levitating right there. It's so cool. Yeah, a lot of that has fallen to the inside, so it's probably still a little wet for trimming, but I'd rather it be a little too wet than to be too hard and I have to remake it, because I don't really have to play for that. Alright, I'm going to go take a little break, and I'm going to do some sculpting with this, and I'll meet you guys back when I am ready to trim the rest of my pieces. got into trimming my taller pieces, I was very, very satisfied with how they turned out, form-wise and height-wise. Usually my pieces stay on the shallow end of things, maybe 4 to 5 inches tall, but these actually came up to be like 6 or 7 inches tall. So this was really great, and then I didn't go through any of my pieces this go round on the trimming. Sometimes I try to get my pieces so thin at the bottom that I managed to break through them and they look more like planter pots than anything else. So this was a really good session for me. Like I said earlier in the video, the sky's the limit with color variations this go around. So you can let me know in the comments what you would like to see these glazed with color-wise, because I'm open to suggestions here. So yeah, I'm going to go through my last few pots in this segment, and then I tried to go in and show you guys how I was going to go in and carve, but maybe it was a blessing in disguise because this video is already an hour long. I appreciate it so much that you guys stuck around. If you're still here, if you're still watching me make these pots, thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. But yeah, so you'll see here in a bit that I did try to record a little segment of me carving into the yarn bowls and going through that process, but unfortunately all my cameras were like, forget you, Infiniti, we're tired, we want to go home. So I basically finished that off camera. Alright, so I have no shortage of ideas for things that I want to make for studio and for my summer shop update, which is basically what all these ceramic pieces are for my summer update for the shop. You guys may or may not know, I don't know if you watched the last channel chat, but I recently nixed my Etsy shop, so I've been in the process of moving absolutely everything over to my website shop. So if you want to support my content in the future at any point, that is where you'll be able to find everything from my crochet and knitwear to my ceramic lines that I am ushering in. Don't know where I was going with that. Oh my gosh. no shortage of ideas. There we go. So I was thinking about going back to some of the raku wear, which was that lengthy playing with fire process that I was talked about a few channel chats ago. Because I made my own glaze for that process, and I absolutely loved the outcome. And then I found some gold glaze in the back of the glaze room there, and it turned out really well. I made some incense holders last semester with that coloration on it, and they turned out to be so gorgeous. I have to go back and see if I have pictures of them before usage, even though they're not hard to clean. But anyway, I digress. I'm thinking about going back to the raku process for some of my crochet hook jars, but also for maybe a yarn bowl or two. I think those would be something special edition and definitely limited edition. Just because of the nature of doing the raku, you have to like fire up the gas kilns outdoors, and I don't really want to deal with the tongs and the fire, I don't think. We'll see how I feel in about a week or two, but I want to do that. I definitely have some stoneware recipes that I plan on messing around with because we kind of have to. Also another project within the next couple of weeks. But luckily, springtime is the time for experimentation, so basically I have a free-for-all and I can make pretty much whatever I want. So after I get done with these wacky teapots that I have come up with, I will be diving straight into the realm of what can I make for my studio. So I've got a few ideas on that. Definitely more yarn bowls. If that's something you guys are interested in, you'll have to let me know down in the comments below. Like maybe leave a yellow heart or something in the comments if you're interested in my yarn bowl. I guess since I'm talking about coloration, I could show you guys one of the raku ones, and I will. But I was thinking for the porcelain that I would mess around with this Rutile blue. Here I go with the colors. But this particular color, it washes from a like sky baby blue to a very pastel-y purple. I'm going to try to get close up on it so you can see it here in a sec. There we go. You guys can really see it well on the front face of Ruelle, which is one of the crochet hook jars that I have on my site that also holds knitting needles. But I really want to experiment with the drips and this color on the porcelain because the porcelain is a pure white clay, and I think this would show up really well on it with a glossy overcoat of glaze. Alright, and this is Sonia. I love the experimental glaze I did last semester. It was supposed to have some more red sunspots, which a lot of the red really dripped down into the piece, but I also just kind of splashed the gold around the rim here, more so than on the body. So I definitely want to play more with this concept and just kind of play with the application of glaze again, because with raku you're supposed to leave the inside exposed, but I really like the idea of leaving some of the outside exposed as well. It really gives it that kind of earthy quality, which I find appropriate considering you throw it in a bucket of ashes basically and let it burn. So these are two of the really big ideas that I'm considering playing with before the end of my semester. There's also this other green glaze that I made. It's a very earthy, kind of rainforesty green that I am in love with. Unfortunately, I only have one piece with the color on it, and it is my current incense holder, and it's full of ashes right now. So, you know, that remains to be seen. I have to see how much of that I have left for that process, but I think for the purpose of like yarn bowls and like notion cups and things like that, I should have enough of it, but I can always make more, I suppose. Well, clearly next time I go into the studio with my camera, I'm going to have to bring like all of my camera batteries and the chargers and things like that. I didn't expect to be there that long, and I didn't expect to need all that camera power, but hey, you know, it bees like that sometimes. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing what my hands look like when I'm not crocheting. But yeah, and also just spending time with me in the studio. I can't even really express how excited I am for this new little feature that I'm doing for Infiniti Crafting Co. Because I've really been trying to figure out, like I said, for the last few years or so, how I could incorporate my artistry in with the business that I am building and make it all work together. And right now I feel like this is a really good spot to be in, and that I've just really found that thing. So, you know, if you want to support the content, if you want to keep up with these updates and things like that, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. As I've said in the past, consider sliding over to my website, signing up for that newsletter so you don't miss out on, well, the newsletter and also blog posts when I don't write newsletters, because I often put these snippets and details in those blog posts so that everybody can see them. So, you know, if you don't want to miss out, like I said, consider going over there. I will be putting up teasers on Instagram. Also, I've finally started putting posts over there again. I've been on a heck of a hiatus over there, mostly because I've been trying to crochet more or knit more, and this semester has allowed me more time for that, definitely, because I've finished like I finished like 4 projects, and I've started a 5th one. Oh my gosh, that's for another channel chat. It's so darling right now. One of my friends is having a baby, and she told me first what she was having, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? Looks like it's time to make a set. So I wanted to make something a little different from the other heirloom sets that I have on my website, and so I went about scavenging. I found a pattern that I really liked, and I'm going for it, and I'm kind of designing this blanket out so it's super special for her. And it got me to thinking about my tags. Clearly I don't want to put my newest tags, which you guys might have seen some of my recent Twitter pictures if you follow me on Twitter. I got these tags with the hardware that you put through them to secure them, and obviously I don't want to put that on a baby blanket. So I'm like, well, you know, looks like it's almost time to find some new tags. But I'll talk about that a little later on. I just finished another nearly solid shawl here in the studio, and I feel like I'm probably digressing from something that I was saying in the middle of saying. I do apologize, I don't remember. But I did finish this a couple days ago. This is my nearly solid shawl, and it is in the color pattern Storm. I absolutely loved working with this. Every time the lighter colors would just pop up, it just felt like a pure dose of happiness, and I don't know why, but I would definitely be replicating this at some point, because honestly, when I bought the yarn for this way back when, I accidentally bought 2 different colors, but they just thankfully matched. So I finally pulled it off the shelf and stitched it up, and it turned out super awesome, like I thought it would. Another great part of spring break is the spring cleaning of the studio, so pardon me, but this was the first. This is the second project I finished this year, and I have decided to call this the Razzle Sweater. Don't ask me why, it just felt like it fit. Okay, so I finally finished this. I love the neckline on it, and I was just very excited to finish crocheting that last stitch on the sleeve, honestly. And I have one of my special little tags down here on the hem of it, but this one, I've taken pictures of it. I need to take pictures in it at some point. It's still cool enough. It's March. It'll be fine. But I had enough yarn left over in this color to make a second one if I wanted to, which is great. So I'm really glad. This is one of the times I'm really glad that I overestimated how much yarn I would need early on, because I was able to finish this and then have enough left over to do a second one if I wanted to in the exact same size. So it's like one of those small wins. But I promised I'd show it to you, so here we are. The pattern for this probably won't come out until December-ish this year. I have a lot of craft plans for this summer, one of them being the Breath of Autumn pocket shawl that I showed off in the community tab. So that's another thing. If you're a member of my community, check out the community tab, or if you haven't subscribed yet, check out the community tab, because I'm always posting stuff over there, like polls as they relate to like my merch shop, and like little blurbs. Like I put out a blurb that I was going on my spring break, so that's why I haven't been uploading tutorials this past week, and I won't be back until Wednesday next week. By the way, happy Whip Wednesday. So, you know, that's just a good place to find everything in general. Like I said earlier, you can check me out on Instagram. You can see all my whip pictures. You can find pattern releases, things like new stuff that I'm working on, including things about my ceramic line that I'm just slowly kind of feeding my Instagram community and seeing how they react to it. So it's turning out pretty well so far. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are excited too. If you are, like I said, subscribe, ring the notification bell. It's one of the best ways to support my content. Consider going over, signing up for the newsletter. Follow me on Instagram, all that fun social media stuff, right? And I think I have said and done everything that I wanted to say and do for today's video. I know it was a long one, so I'm going to stop rambling. And until next time, guys, happy making.